everybody, welcome back. Psychedelic here. Finally have a vinyl finds video for you. This will be part 1 of 2, so if you'd like to see part 2, subscribe for more, as some people might say. But seriously, got some vinyl finds, and they're all local by the way. 5 LPs, and then I think the second haul I got last weekend. I think I got 4 LPs, I think, and yeah, I broke my little challenge. I wasn't going to spend any money on records this month, but I kind of had the itch and I wasn't going to spend much, so I didn't spend over 20 bucks. So, not bad, right? And I'm pretty happy with them. And one of those records in the second batch, I will share that I think I'm going to spotlight pretty well. I'm going to do like maybe a premiere live stream of this record because there are no sound clips on YouTube. Barely has a reputation on Discogs or anywhere else online. And if you guys follow my Instagram, you may have spotted what that record was. And I'll tell you what, guys, this is one of those things where it's like, when are we getting the Noble Records exclusive? Yes, I'm throwing that joke out there again, but seriously, this is one that I think a lot of people would really love. And depending on how the live stream will go, because I did order a sound card and hopefully I'll get some better sound. It's supposed to be arriving today, and I'm going to test it out on a StreamYard live stream or something and test it all out. But I'd like to premiere it on the live stream and then eventually upload it on my other channel. So be looking for that in the future. Let's get on with our finds. So this is all from one shop, I think. Yeah, sort of. Well, one of them is sort of a link to the shop, but I actually picked one up in Hickman, Nebraska, which is probably half hour south of Lincoln. But this one I was kind of surprised, and I was like, you're coming home with me when I spotted this one, because I had given this kind of a first blind listen a few months ago, and I was like, I'm going to pick this up when I see it. And funny enough, this is a UK press, and this is The End of the Game by Peter Green. As you guys know of Fleetwood Mac. I really love this cover too, just the look of like, I'm awake, I'm aware, I'm a mean tiger. And then, you know, he's got to get his rest in too at the same time. It's just simple, but I love it. So this is like his first solo record here on Reprise. And he had like he only had like a few solo records. I think one other one in the 70s. And then later on in his career, but this is pretty much post Fleetwood Mac. It gives a lot of hints of what Peter Green was kind of going through at the time. You know, in early 1970, he was going through some different phases of taking large doses of LSD, and when they were on their final tour with Peter, I think he met up with like a commune in Munich around this time, early 70, and I think he just kind of got led into the wrong crowd, because when they found him, he was all in distress and was having, you know, had tears, and he just was not himself. So in a lot of ways, you know, Peter Green could almost come off as like a acid casualty of some sort. So this is like his post-acid trip, you know, not necessarily a good trip. He just got led with this wrong crowd. You know, you got to have good guidance on your trips, and this one really reflects on that, I think, in a lot of ways. It's all instrumental, it's very sparse. He just kind of collected a lot of players together. I think it was Zoot Money, yeah, Zoot Money on here, Alex Demachski. He went by another name, I think. I forget what else he played on, but if he was with the Animals, maybe, I forget. But they played with a lot of people. But he just got this collective to play on this record. And like I said, it was very sparse and just has a lot of different flavors moving throughout this one. You know, acid rock, blues, jazz structures. But it kind of reminds me of like some of the open mic jams that I do at the bar. Very open, very free improv, sort of stream of consciousness thing going on here. Kind of reminds me of, you know, kind of like Live Dead record, Live Grateful Dead, when they would do these kind of spatial, just open jams. But But it doesn't really sound like them either at the same time. It's kind of just its own unique thing. And I've heard some people have been kind of split on this record over time. Some people think it's kind of boring, kind of drags on. And then some people like me, I always find something new in here when I listen to it. Even for how sparse it sounds as the record goes along, you know, tracks like Descending Scale, Burnt Foot, but it opens up on a high note with Bottoms Up, which kind of is a great opening track. Good jammer, nice wah guitar on here, and offers a lot of great things, I think. So very cool to find a clean UK press. Get a shot of this label here. Pretty decent copy. And yeah, I think on the US pressing it has the photograph underneath the text. I had no idea it was down there at the shop at that time. I just kind of stumbled upon it, and that also goes for another record in this pile. So yeah, and I stumbled upon this too. This was sort of like, you know, I told the shop, you know, I'm not too much into like neo-psych or neo-garage rock revival kind of records, but this is one that takes me back 10 years ago because I was, you know, kind of dipping my toes into some things, and this is one that has still stuck with me, and I still quite enjoy this. This is Floating Coffin by the OCs. Are you surprised to see me showing this? You should be. But yeah, 2014 this came out, and what a gnarly looking album art too. You got the dog teeth, these enlarged human eyes with strawberries covering the face. It's kind of crazy. I think those are all the lyrics too, by the way. It's like all spoken out with this joint. And you got the band on the back. I'm most familiar with their work around this time and stuff prior to this, like Pewdifiers 2 EP, and I can't remember the other titles, the one with the telephone on it, and some of the early stuff, but I know they've been associated with a lot of different projects, or, you know, sort of around this time and then afterwards. You know, a lot of name changes and stuff like that. I think they only go by OCs now. But this is definitely one of my more favorites by them. Yeah, it's very noisy, but it's also got this kind of very drifting, kind of gliding, ethereal kind of sound at the same time. And lots of energy on here too. High octane, sort of upbeat energy. Like the first track, I Come From the Mountain. And then probably my favorite tracks, No Spell and Strawberries 1 and 2. Nice use of harmonies, you know, both intense, but also, you know, subdued in spots. Side 2, maybe not as exciting, but it's got some goods. I think they later go into some like krautrocky type of spatial kind of sounds, but this is more like punky, like acid rock mixed with garage punk. And it speaks to me, man. I enjoy this quite a bit. It's just wired different, you know, kind of infiltrating a lot of different distortions and noise within. And yeah, I haven't really discovered too much after this, and some people say maybe it's not worth looking too much into, but, you know, when the time's right, I will certainly look into them. But as you guys know, I'm pretty much a straightforward, you know, vintage kind of listener. And then, yeah, these next two are from the shop as well. This is actually a freebie because it's not in the greatest shape, but it still plays through pretty well on my system. And I said, if anything, I'll just hang this up in my wall, make a good album artwork there. This is Virgin Fugs. I think this is like their third album on ESP disc. And I'm not sure if it's a first original, because I know some originals have like, right between the white space there, it says Adult Minds Only, or something like that. And these are basically recordings from their first album from '65. This came out 2 years later in '67. I think it was released without their permission too, for some reason. And although this was a freebie, Generally, I would not pick up too many Fugs records. I mean, I've listened to all this early folk protest kind of stuff. And I mean, the ideas interest me, but musically, this is not really where I want to hang out exactly. But I do love how open it is and how frank they are with the lyrics and stuff like that. But this is, I mean, it's pretty ahead of its time in some ways. There are a couple great tracks on here, though. I Command the House of the Devil. It's got a good, like, kind of like a communal folk kind of vibe. But then CIA Man, some of the lyrics on there are pretty potent and still stick out to this day. You got songs like Saran Wrap. It gets kind of goofy, but it's a fun listen for sure. You know, Ed Sanders and crew. And yeah, this didn't even have a sleeve, but I'm pretty sure it's an early original. I mean, that label looks pretty bare bones. You know, it's got a lot of scuffing, but it played pretty well, despite being a freebie. And who could forget the hit, Coca-Cola Douche? How come we don't talk about that song nowadays? I don't know. But yeah, this is just kind of a nice curio. You know, the only one I really needed from them, which I have, is Tenderness Junction. Musically, that's like the most interesting one for me, so I've kept that one yet. Otherwise, they've been pretty hit or miss, some of their stuff. A lot of misses, in my opinion. And then this is one that I happened to spot behind the counter. He hadn't even priced this one yet. I was like, hey, remember I told you I was looking for this? And it just so happened to drop in the shop. I do need to put this in a different sleeve. It's pretty banged up, but this is Manford Man Chapter 3. This is a self-titled debut here. I think they only released one other one on Vertigo originally. This is also on Vertigo in the UK. It's on Polydor, the US press. And, you know, sleeve has seen better days, but I just kind of shot an offer to him and he accepted. And this one you can still find relatively cheap. I mean, in good shape. Maybe one like this between like 15, 25 bucks around there. And that's a great price for this. Got tracks like Traveling Lady. It's got a great opening track. My highlight is Sometimes. Probably the track on here with the least amount of brass, because there is some brass sections on here which I think were mixed pretty high for my liking. But I think the more you listen to this, you know, you get kind of used to it. It does seem like a little overblown at times. And the songwriting is pretty tight for being like a jazz early fusion meets, you know, sort of a prog concoction here. Polydor plays pretty well. Again, you probably need to put this in a master sleeve. But yeah, Mike Hug, he's got a very kind of husky, like sneaky kind of sounding voice, which is kind of unique. And yeah, Mike Hug and Manford Man, they're still around to this day, so it's pretty cool. I think they're like in their 80s now, which is kind of wild. But yeah, it's got some saxophone, and I think there's like maybe flute, alto flute, I should say. Police whistle. I don't remember hearing that, but pretty cool otherwise. Then I got one more here. This is one that kind of took a blind chance on because there were only 2 other sound clips on YouTube, and one track was really great, and then the other one was like, it's possibly gonna go some places. Wasn't really sure though, because it's just a variety of things, and as it says on the back, which I'll share, but this is the album Early Morning Sunshine by Mason Steel Connection. Barely has any reputation online, but yeah, I got the tip from my shop that some guy in Hickman was wanting to sell this for a decent price, and it's a sealed copy originally. And, you know, I was like, sure, I'll take a chance on this because it's kind of targeted towards what I'm looking for a little bit. And yeah, it says on the back here, where does it say? This particular album demonstrates no particular style and has been called a practical study of versatility. So with that said, I didn't know really what I was getting into, and looking at the titles doesn't really give you a whole lot to go off of. But I just kind of like the starkness of it, you know, just sort of DIY style. Throw an old Polaroid in there. And it says, missing from the triangle are Mary Beth McGuire and Jerry Carty, for whom the artist was unavailable, pictured recording, dancing. And they were based out of, I think it was Morrison, Illinois. This came out in 1981, and stylistically, there's really one or two big highlights off here for my taste. But otherwise, it's kind of like a throwback to the early days of rock and roll, like early 60s sort of rock and roll, but not in the best way. It's a little cheesy. And they do a couple like different lounge flavored things, stuff that you would hear like cruise ship lounge clubs or something, which doesn't necessarily appeal to me too much unless it's, you know, a little more cosmic or something per se. But there is one big highlight off here, and it's the track Stormhaven's End. And that track's on YouTube. Last track on side one. And I described it online. It sounds like the B-52s if they went in a more lo-fi, progressive rock kind of sound. I don't know. I think it sounds like that. It's got some crazy like riffage going on, some soloing, but then a lot of like synthesizer work, really energetic and kind of really complex, quirky song structures, and lasts about 5 minutes. So it's definitely the stuff I'm looking for. Something a little more spaced out, kind of lo-fi, DIY style. And you'd think this probably naturally fit in the Acid Archives, and maybe it would, but yeah, overall not too impressed with this one. So yeah, we'll see what we can do with it. Might sell it on Discogs, or I think I know someone that may want this, so he might catch wind of this video. You know who you are. Yeah, so Early Morning Sunshine, Mason Steel Connection. I'm sure you all know it. So with that said, we got part 2 coming along, and got a few other videos in mind with me taking a little break from any purchases. I'm still waiting on a pre-order that I have coming in the mail. And today's Juneteenth, so no mail. And I got a couple ideas in mind. So I got a movie review. I'm gonna try and flesh one out here, and then I got a sort of label spotlight. Once again, I'm gonna rank maybe my top 10 of a major label. And so they're kind of big projects, but I'm gonna do the homework and make it happen. So till next time, check these all out, and we shall see you soon.